Hello to everybody everywhere. It's a front three more potent than the current Tottenham Hotspur lineup. I'm joined by two regulars. We have Mr. Steve Silver from Stateside Footy. How are you doing, Steve?
Oh, dude, I'm excellent, man. I'm oven ready and ready to go tonight, man. So, by the way, Adrian, yeah, you do not have a monopoly on the term oven ready. I've been using it all week, so there you go.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'm fine as well. No, I don't mind. Use them all. I mean, one of my other sayings that I've seen a couple of people use is hope is not a strategy, because everybody's going, hope we do this, hope we do that, hope we go into this, hope we do that. And I would say, hope is not a strategy. Alan knows when he comes on, when he'll be on later. Alan knows. Anyway, Drew, back to you. I'm sure we've got a lot of interesting points because we like to bring you interesting content. Right?
I was actually about to. Steve stole my thunder already because I was about to ask you if you're oven ready. So we're on the same page. Great minds think alike. Big up to everybody in the chat. We are Spurs TV here, right out the gate. Spotlight on Spurs. Big up, Luke. How you doing? Well, mate. Peter, he's over in Melbourne and it's 7:12 already. And Kevin as well. Big up to you, Kevin. Good to see you. Good to see you. So here we are. Another show. Another mini crisis in Tottenham world. We are going to start off this evening with obviously yesterday's performance. Bayern Munich versus Spurs. Obviously, we know what Bayern Munich are all about. Fantastic team, fantastic players, cohesive unit, a coach that's been there, at least a year, had time to bed in some ideas. And look, they're a very well-oiled machine, shall we say? Vorsprung durch Technique, as the Germans like to say. So, Steve, I know obviously you didn't get a chance to watch it. We're kind of highlight buddies, I think. I only really got to see the extended highlights. So I'm going to lean on Adrian for this and just ask you and Adrian, I know we'll go through sort of the minute by minute, which we've got here in our banners, but give us an idea of the overall performance and sort of what your feelings were walking away from it.
Well, first half, they could have scored more. I mean, basically, they could have doubled their score, to be honest. When you've got a world-class forward line, you've got Kane, you've got Elisa, you've got Other Palace, you've got Kingsley Coman. They've just brought in Diaz from Liverpool. I mean, we don't even have a performing front three yet. We don't even know what our performing front three will be at its best because our players up front are works in progress still, So, but no, they're a quality team. I was hoping before the game started, and I always like to say Spurs are going to win every game, but I thought because we got PSG come up, let's just come up, But it could have been an absolute massacre, to be honest with you. 4-0 actually, it sort of didn't give Bayern the credit they had. They had like 26 shots or something and things like that. 60% possession. We did when the game was already lost at 3-0. We started to get forward a bit more, but I think that was because of their substitutions. Anyway, Steve.
Well, and again, and I think Drew, I'm sure you'll feel this one. That from what I saw, they looked incredibly disorganized on the back line. I didn't think they were necessarily really all that great on the defensive side, which is actually kind of alarming, really, considering that the way that this team has shaped up so much through the preseason. It looks like they're going to be a defensive first counterattacking style team, just considering the lack of talent on that forward line. Obviously, we hope that's going to get a little bit better as we get close to the first match of the season or the end of the transfer deadline. But that being said, what I will say is I think we also have to take a step back and look at what this preseason is. You're not going to win any Premier Leagues or Champions Leagues in the preseason. This is all getting ready for what Thomas Frank has already said, which is his primary goal, which is the Super Cup against PSG. He has that one circled on his calendar. Whether it was Reading or Luton Town or Arsenal, you can understand why they wanted to show up against Arsenal. But that being said, all of this preseason, whether it's win or losses, this right here for me is just getting ready for what he considers is his biggest priority, which is PSG in the Super Cup. And I think I don't really think you can extrapolate much from this loss yesterday. But overall, I mean, if we really want to, be serious about it, I mean, I think the Spurs had 2 wins in the preseason, 3 draws. and only one loss. So really, at the end of the day, to me, I think this actually was exactly what I expected in the preseason. So, all said and done, do I really have a problem with what happened yesterday? Not really.
Fair enough. Right out the gate, Peter, as always, thank you so much. He's such a loyal member of the community, gifting 5 Spurs memberships, and those memberships have gone down to a user, Andy Lloyd, Connor at Levinomics. Oh, big up Connor. Spurs GCTV, and Nita. Big up Nita. Good to see you as well. So thank you very much, as always, Peter. Just so very generous with your giving. Thank you so much.
While you're there, Peter, I will get you on a Tuesday show. If you can get Milton Obrega and even David Shear with you, I can do an Aussie show like on a Tuesday. But if you can get them 2 together, I'll sort something out. I'm sure Steve will do it, or whatever in his show will get you on or whatever. All right. Sorry, Drew, back to you.
No, you're right. You're right. So we'll go through. This was the starting lineup. We had Vicario, Spence, VDV, Romero, Porro, Paulinho, Sarr, Bentancur, Johnson, Richarlison, Kudus. And here's the thing, right? On paper, when I read out Vicario, Spence, VDV, Romero, Porro, and then Paulinho even had that in there, that's a pretty... I mean, in my mind, that's about as solid a defence as we can put out at the moment. So the fact that we were sort of 6s and 7s at the back, especially in the first half, just, I don't know, doesn't fill me with too much confidence. And then obviously the front line, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a little while because it's leaving a lot to be desired at the moment. We had the substitutes bench, which was Kinski, Austin Davies, Danzo, Gray, Bissouma, Vogeltel, Odegaard, and Vuskovic. And then we'll run through just kind of the minute by minute here quickly because 12 minutes, we had 1-0 from Kane, offside goal. 14 minutes penalty, which Kane blasted over because the penalty spot seemed to sort of give way a little bit underneath him. But then already, like you say, Adrian, you could have been 2-0 up by then, and you're already sort of, you're fighting an uphill battle after 14 minutes. Let's talk about Richarlison briefly. 16 minutes in. Has an attempt saved. It wasn't a bad attempt. I mean, it was a bit weak. But overall, he seems to, I don't know, general consensus is he's just not good enough. We'll obviously carry on with the minute by minute, but I want to touch on this briefly with both of you. Adrian, you're already nodding. He's just not good enough, is he?
No, he's not good enough for us. I mean, when you look at the strikers this club's had, we used to have 4 strikers at one time. They'd all be better than him. Right? And look, your heart goes out to him. I'm not going to, if I don't like a player, I'm always going to support more at a club, the same as a manager. Right? That's the way I've always been. It's what I was taught. But he's not good enough. You know what I mean? His touch is awful. I mean, you can't fault him for a gutsy performance and the shithousery. He's very good at that. But, I'd rather see Tell playing in the number 9, or Scarlett in there. I really would, because, I mean, like, they've both got more about them than he has. He's got experience and all that. I mean, even with goals, what's the most he got? About 13? I mean, he got from Watford, he did well, got the move to Everton. I think he got about 13 goals playing on the left. And I actually think he's more effective on the left, even though he's not a natural winner, than he is through the middle. Because of his physical presence and going forward, he's not frightened to try and take someone on. But through the middle, no, he's not good enough. He's just not good enough. I mean, he's going to have to go. He might dig his heels in and be forced to stay. And then what do? You can say to him, well, okay, time. But for that to happen, we've got to get another striker in anyway. And then you can say, well, we're not going to add you to the Champions League squad. But actually, that won't be a problem. I don't think once we get rid of Solomon and Gill, because we're going to have loads of spaces there, Yeah, he's just not good enough. Not for this club, not for what I've seen in 6.5 decades of watching this club play. He's just not good enough. He's another sort of Jerry Armstrong type, really. Back in the day, those that might remember him. Yeah, so back to you, Drew.
Steve, what's your thoughts on Richarlison?
The interesting thing is, like, when I think of Richarlison, I think about his time at Everton, right? Where you actually had a dude that was in form, a guy that was healthy, and you actually had tangible proof that his value was not in doubt. But and it looks like Zookeeper Tom in the chat actually kind of stole my thunder a little bit, because he's absolutely right. His touch is poor and he can't hold it up, right? And the interesting thing about a Thomas Frank system is, for me at least, I was expecting more of a two-striker, a two up top type of formation, just considering, a lack of a legitimate goal threat, and the ability to kind of interchange Solanke and Richarlison, almost using them as that off nine a little bit. That I actually would utilize him quite well. So you don't have to worry about his hold up play. He can just attack channels and do what he does best. But so far in the preseason as a solitary nine, he's had multiple opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net, and he's either taking bad paths to the ball, or his positioning in the box is not right, and he's just largely been ineffective. Which also leads to the reason why, over the last couple of days, you've seen a lot of links to Nicholas Jackson of Chelsea, right? So it looks like from the beginning of the preseason, where Thomas Frank had nothing but great things to say about him, and was looking like he was happy to work with them, and now all of a sudden it looks like they're now actually lighting themselves up to get another nine through the door, because I think they've realized now over the span of 3-4 weeks they actually can't trust him, right? So I think in a vacuum, it's absolutely telling, to a point where it's going to be interesting to see exactly how these next few weeks play out before we get to Burnley, and whether or not his minutes kind of come down a little bit more into what Adrian was saying, that maybe Matisse Tell starts getting some of those minutes that normally would go to Richarlison.
Interesting. We'll introduce you of the fourth wheel. We've gone for. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Good to see you. Good to have you back.
Well, yeah, great to be back.
Cool. Yeah, we were just running through the game yesterday. Did you get a chance to watch it or see any highlights at all?
I did. I watched it.
Yeah, we were just going through them. We were going through them minute by minute, and we were just sort of chatting about Richarlison. But I mean, want to give your sort of general thoughts on what you saw?
Man, it was a tough game. I mean, let's be fair. Bayern Munich is a team that will probably challenge for the Champions League title this year. I think with the move with Luis Diaz now on the left, with Harry Kane there on the right, in the center, and then they got right now Kingsley Coman, but they'll have other players. I'm sure they'll probably grab another one or two. When
they got Elise as well, right? They got
Elise,
well.
Exactly. Oh my God, what a steal that guy was! What they have such a it's so fun to watch a really good team play really well. It's fun, So yes, I was very disappointed with how we played, but it was hard to be angry at good style play, even if it was against us. I mean, Harry Kane played like Harry Kane plays and did very well. I think Kuti kind of made an early mistake and gave himself a yellow card earlier on. And I think after that, and he wasn't particularly careful even after the yellow card, but he was luckily not charged with what could have been a red card or a second yellow to red, with that bit of a trip.
Just Romero doing Romero things, right?
Romero doing Romero things. And I think, what we saw, as opposed to what we saw against Arsenal. Look, Arsenal, it's a game where if you had to ask me, name a team, you close your eyes and name a team that you would excel against no matter what, and it would be Arsenal. So the fact that we beat Arsenal, I don't think it's a fluke. I think it showed that we have that capacity and capability to play against teams like Arsenal, who last season would have trounced us and would have, came in second to our 17th. So normally on paper, I would say, oh, they can't compete, but we absolutely now can compete. I think it's just one of those games that we were outclassed. I think some of it may have been just the mentality. We never looked like we were in the game. Suddenly it went from one. We were down 1 for a little while, then we were down 2, and then very quickly thereafter we were down 3, and not shortly thereafter we're down 4. Even against their their B team, we looked like we struggled a bit. And I think that's just, new coach, some new players playing in a new style. I don't know if being concerned after the 4-0 loss to Bayern Munich, I don't know if that's irrational or if it's just knee jerk, but it didn't scare me. It's preseason. If we're going to have issues like this, I mean, look, we just lost James Madison. We just lost Heung-min Son. So we lose our creativity and we lost pretty much the heart of the team. So there's a lot going on right now in the life of Tottenham Hotspur. And I think that it was just a game that was preseason. And if we're going to make those kinds of mistakes, I'd rather make them against Bayern in the preseason than against PSG in the Super Cup coming up. Let the mistakes happen on the preseason field. I mean, players, they all knew going into this game that it was going to be Sonny's last. I don't know that this was going to, I'm sorry, that they had just lost Sonny. And it takes a lot. And I'm sure they found out before we did that James Madison did his ACL. So it's kind of a sucky situation, right now. What did you guys think of it? I mean, ultimately, does it concern you that they lost 4-0 and that we lost 2? I mean, technically we lost like 2-0 to their B team and we lost 4-0 total. But
I guess that would be my concern, is the fact that maybe, and we'll wrap up this minute by minute and then we'll kind of get into it. I guess my concern is maybe that when they took their 1 through 12 team or 1 through 11 off and put on their academy, there still wasn't any real signs of, I mean, I'm not going to say there weren't any signs of life from us. Like I said, I only saw the extended highlights, so I don't know. But when you've got, I guess when you're already 2-0 down, you already feel like you're pushing water uphill with a rake, then maybe it's to be expected. And with a combination of everything, I can, it's not as meaningful as I think some people are maybe making it out to be, but I also think it's more meaningful than others are maybe making it out to be. So, but we'll get deeper in. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think the concern really is we never looked like we were going to score. We just never had that creativity. And again, I use the term creativity because we were missing our creativity and it showed. And we're not going to get back creativity unless we buy more creativity. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't think that Lucas Bergvall is ready yet to be the kind of creative player that James Madison is. That just comes with maturity. Unless you are a very elite, and these guys are already elite to get to this point, in my book, that to get there. Yeah. So, generally speaking, it's going to be, we have to buy it. And otherwise we are going to suffer until Madison comes back or Kulu comes back. And even when Kulu is back, I don't know that Kulu was the same kind of creative thinker that James Madison is. The different players.
Careful what you say about Kulu around this guy up here.
It's not a negative.
No. It's just a running joke at the moment. He just gets very offended if it's nothing.
It's not absolutely. No player is everything, and Kulu can't be everything. And to depend.
No, he's right though. You're right though.
To be the creative force is sort of unfair because that's not really his. That's not where he's super skilled. His super skills are coming in different ways. He is creative.
Sure,
but he doesn't do what James Madison does. Like they're just different style of play. It's not bad.
You're absolutely right.
I just think that we're setting a player up to be failures in the fans' eyes if we expect them to do what James Madison does. There are players that can do what James Madison does on other teams. Like for me, it would be Eze, but.
I think that's the general consensus for everybody. Let's get back to let's wrap up this minute by minute because we're kind of deviating and this is all sort of stuff we can be talking about once we wrap up. So we just had the 16 minutes Richarlison attempt was saved. We had the Vicario 26 minutes saved down low. Romero with the yellow card. Paulinho had his first 45 minutes. We'll touch. Adrian, what did you make of his first 45 minutes? Did he look like somebody that hadn't played much football?
Yeah, I mean, he was a bit. It wasn't bad, but like it was a bit slow. Picked up a booking, didn't he? Did he pick up a booking? I'm not sure if he did. I know. I know. It was a couple of his tackles were a bit late. He was a bit late with in the box for Kane's goal, the offside one. Anyway,
that's what you're thinking of.
He was a bit caught behind, which you don't expect from someone in his position. I'm not worried about him. I know his quality. I've watched videos of him. If we've got a player where there was at Fulham, I don't care about his age, because you don't necessarily have to do that amount of work when you're playing his position. So him and the two centre-backs do the less amount of running. Although he does get forward, he can pass the ball. He's not a ball carrier, but then because he's shrewd, he passes the ball before someone challenges him a lot of the times, which is equally as good. No, I think he's a fantastic player. I think, and like we talked about getting the front three function. I thought Paulinho, I think that's all Frank was going to tend to do. I think Frank got it wrong. If we're going to carry on like on the left, really playing Johnson out on the left, all Bayern had to do with us basically was stop Kudus, who was only out. They didn't have to worry about Richarlison. They'd have known about him, probably been laughing about him before game. And so, and then like once all you had to do is stop our left-hand side, which they blocked off, focus on stopping Kudus, who was only out, and they virtually had the game won. So yeah. No, I like Paulinho. I think like it's going to be very good for us, And like we won't be playing Bayern every week, so even if we don't necessarily get the creative player in, we're still going to win lots of games. It's just that if we get the players in, then we can start, raising our expectations of where we're going to finish in the league. I still think worst ways we're finishing top 8. We get the right players in, perhaps we could challenge for top 5. But we'll see. We'll see where we are at the end of the window, and we will do a review of the transfer window at the end of September 1st.
All right, we had Vicario saving from a pretty comfortable height, but then we had on 60 minutes Coman with a curler in the far post, which was, a pretty decent finish. Then, of course, you to compound the pain, you had Richarlison who heads wide, and it was a slightly awkward angle, but you wanted to at least try and put it on target. But then that's made even worse by a worldie on 74 minutes from Carl, who looked like, I don't know, it made me look old when I saw him. When I saw him celebrating, I was like, who is the kid, and do your parents know where you are? He looked absolutely tiny. And then 79 minutes, 4-0, Kusi Asari. And again, this was an absolute belter. So it was kind of worldy, a mishap, a worldy followed by crap from Richarlison, followed by a worldie, followed by a worldie. So, what are you going to do? But then, I don't know, am I being unfair to Vicario? I felt like he was miles away from all of them. Is that unfair, anybody? Or are there any concerns? And I'll start with you, Steve. Concerns or no?
Well,
and are those concerns anything new, or have you already, have you had them for a minute?
So here's the here's the interesting thing, right? So it's a concern if he was taking the right path. It's a concern if he wasn't taking the right path to a ball, if his footwork is off, or if he was late. Yeah, that is a little concerning. But that being said, if he took a good path to the save and was just beat, you can kind of understand that. But he let 4 through, right? So from that standpoint, it is a little concerning. But then again, right? I don't necessarily think it should be on him. I think, me personally, I think the entire back 4, back 5 has a lot to do with, whether or not your goalkeeper is going to be put in a compromising situation in order to not save the ball. So, from that standpoint, I take a step back, and again, I have to look at this in a whole. Was it a bad performance? Okay, fine. That's fine. That's great. But that being said, he's still going to be the number 1 moving forward, right? So at the very end, there's a lot you can take from this. But at the end of the day, am I going to put this all on Vicario? Nah, not really. So I'm somewhat, I guess, to answer your question, I guess I took the long way around to answer this one. To answer your question,
that's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not too overly concerned because again, it's the preseason, and again, I don't necessarily know whether or not this was actually an important match. Because again, I think everything is playing up to the Super Cup with PSG, and I would probably assume we're going to see that same type of intensity as we saw against Arsenal in that match. This one, I think, is just, I hate to say it, potentially going through the motions.
Yeah, big up again, Peter Cahias. You've gone and done it again. He's got another 5 Spurs Diehards memberships. I think it came through a minute ago, but I just wanted to obviously give a thanks again. Who have we got here? We have Stevie Edinburgh Spurs got one. Ian Meth got one. He should pass that on. He owns this bloody thing. We got Jimmy Hotspur who got given one. We got Ringketic Sport Agenda with one. And then Presenjit Bahaduri. So I apologize if I have butchered that. But yeah, if you're in here, please be sure and thank Peter again for his generosity. We are 89th minute. Tell shot, Neuer save, full time ultimately. A game of attack versus suspect defense, maybe.
Yeah, air attack.
Yeah. Adrian, we'll come to you. Frank's game management. You said, or you touched on the fact that he sort of got it wrong because he keeps on.
I just want to mention, Vicario, a fan base keep comparing Vicario with Kingsley and vice versa. If they were both the same player, that'd be good, right? But look, Vicario made 2 excellent saves in the final, and he made an excellent save in this game from Harry Kane. He has turned up in big games, Vicario, with saves that have got us through the last, the Europa League and all that. If we're going to argue about goalkeepers, one, tell us who's better that's available. This is what you got to look at. I think they're both good goalkeepers. And now we've got the new goalkeeping coach who's at Liverpool and in Germany, whose name is, which I've got him somewhere. I think he's going to improve both of them. So Otto, that's it. Yeah, Fabian Otto.
Otto. Is it Hans? I feel like if you're a goalkeeping coach from Germany and you've got Hans somewhere in your name, then that's got to be that's got to be a good sign, isn't it? Right, being keeper Hans. Yours.
I know Frank's the professor. Yeah. Look, Fritz, no hands. Yeah. No, Frank's a professor and all that. One thing. Have you not looked before when Ange tried to play, Johnson on the left? It didn't quite work. Our left-hand side was crap. I thought Spence did a few good things early in the first half because we were up against it, right? But our left-hand side was pants, right? There was no outlet. You need to have outlets along the front 3 to cause teams problems. Otherwise, they just block you off and concentrate where the danger is. We were too easy to beat yesterday, basically. Too easy to beat. You're going to play Johnson now. If Kudus is on the right, then play him as, play him as a striker, an out-and-out striker. He can do that job. He's got an instinct for goals, whereas Richarlison has got no goal-scoring instinct. For a striker, he hasn't got that. Lancashire and Scarlett have got it. I've seen it. They've got it, right? They draw defenders away from
level.
Yeah.
Just not at that level.
I wouldn't surprise me against PSG if Tell starts instead of him or Odebert on the left. I think actually Odebert is the most skillful player at the club. Madison's the second most. That's what the word is coming out of there.
Well, isn't it telling that Brendan Johnson's getting run on the left side, just considering the I guess you can say the lack of ready talent to compete at the Premier League level. So they're taking Johnson and putting on the left hand side. Isn't that kind of telling against the likes of Odebert or Richarlison or Tell on the left hand side?
Well, I wouldn't even be against giving Kudus a run down the middle. He might not be the biggest forward in the world, but you don't have to play with an old traditional sort of central number 9 player. If he's playing as an old inside forward, an attacking inside forward, then you could play him through the middle. At least he would carry the ball, hold on the ball, wouldn't lose. He would lose the ball occasionally, obviously, but he wouldn't lose the ball as much. So you could play him there. I just think Frank thinks Johnson, he's got an instinct for scoring goals. I've warmed to the player. You don't get 18 goals if you're a mug or whatever it is. But I know others don't like. I didn't want him at the club before he came. That's common knowledge. But I've warmed to him, and I think he's a squad player, and he's got a job to do in the squad, but not on the left. not on the left. I mean, he actually took his man on once in the first half and got past him. Did you see that on the highlights? He did actually. I think he's like probably the third fastest player at the club after VDV and Spence. Spencer's the second fastest. So you're thinking to yourself, well, you don't use your pace for that. In fact, he doesn't use his pace at all. I mean, if you're playing away from home and he's getting someone on the break through the middle, I think he could do a better job. But yeah, I mean, not on the left, thank you. I want to see a change. If Kudus is on the right, then Johnson, if you ain't playing through the middle in a 4-4-2 or whatever, or just as a lone striker, then like you got to sit down in favour of Kudus. Like, we need to play someone else on the left. So whether that's will Solanke be back? That's the thing we can talk about later. But yeah, is he being saved? So I just think Tell about on the left against PSG. It's a Super Cup and it's a game you've got. Look, we'd all like to win it. It's a bit of banter. We can banter our rivals with it, But Burnley's more important to me than that Super Cup, although I want to win it. 3 points against Burnley, Saturday, which is a disgrace they didn't put that game back to Sunday as well, but that's another story. Back to you, Drew.
Well, I'll tell you, let's get on to. Well, I'll tell you, and have you guys got anything you want to add with regards to in-game management or anything that you've seen? I mean, even just pre-season regarding sort of shape, patterns of play. I mean, there's a couple of people in the chat mentioned there aren't any patterns of play. I mean, we'll start with you, Alan. Is there? I mean, you think what are your thoughts? Johnson on the left.
I thought he was kind of playing a style that was sort of pseudo and, set up. I don't think Frank is all that familiar with playing against top clubs right now in Europe. I think he showed that he's really good at setting up against Premier League teams. He knew what to do against Newcastle. He knew what to do against Arsenal. But against teams that were non-Premier League teams, I think he just, I'm hoping they're taking a lot of notes, and because setting up against Bayern Munich, probably similar to other teams that are at that level, and what they can kind of expect for the best of players to kind of take them on. I think Harry Kane was left a little too open when he scored, and I was thrilled that he didn't score against us in the penalty kick. I was actually pretty surprised that he didn't score against us in the penalty kick. Really flubbed it. But I think what I saw of Thomas Frank was that he and his coaches were doing a lot of talking during the game. So I'm hoping that they're kind of using this preseason time against a team like Bayern Munich, which is, they're probably within the top 5 best teams in the world. At least that's where I would put them. I think they just took a lot of notes, and I think they will recognize they have certain shortcomings. What coach doesn't? I would rather them say, look, we didn't set up the way I think we should have, and I don't think we would set up this way again. I would really like that. Showing a little humility isn't a bad thing. But I think he'll do well in the Premier League. That's what I'm primarily concerned with, is how are we going to do in the Premier League? And I'm hopeful that he'll know what to do against them. I just think that it's going to take a little bit more time against European clubs for him to suss out the best formations to play against them and who to sub where. You mentioned Johnson. Johnson, I think, played center forward for Nottingham Forest when he was at Nottingham Forest, I think. And I think the other people on the right and left. Johnson could play, and he, as Adrian says, he's very fast. And we all know that. And I think he could probably make a nuisance of himself. It's funny, Johnson, for all of his what seems like shyness or his reticence to get kind of physical with people, whenever it does get physical on the pitch, he's like one of the first to get physical. It's such a juxtaposition to how he would play normally down the wing. So I think he's got that physicality. He just doesn't show it, but I'm pretty positive it's in there, ready to just come out. at least until we find someone who's better than they both are in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, which I wouldn't mind if we had like a Wissa or something like that. I think would be pretty good. I don't know about this Nico Jackson thing. Not sure that he's. Maybe I just have a bias against Chelsea players.
You're right.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Steve, what do you want to? I mean, what's your takeaway from the sort of game management, and I guess maybe what you expect now, because the next game is PSG, right? Next week.
I wish it was PSV. I wish it was.
Yeah,
PSV.
I wish it was PSV, right? Yeah, I mean, what are you expecting? There will be any different between this one and what we've got coming up?
I would probably assume we're going to see more of the same, right? A far more conservative approach. We're probably going to struggle to get forward. I think Thomas Frank has actually settled into an approach that's going to be heavy defense, trying to clog the middle of the pitch, clog passing lanes, and try to keep their attackers out on the wings. Because again, they have some of their strength right there in Jed Spence and Pedro Porro, right? So they would rather take their chances with good defenders on the outside than being absolutely slaughtered through the middle of the pitch, right? So I actually have this feeling that we're going to see more of the same, right? The same, a hybrid of what we saw against Arsenal, what we saw against Newcastle, and of course, what we saw yesterday against Bayern Munich. We're probably going to see more of the same, right? And sit back mostly, play good defense, and then try to take our time and take our approach when it comes to the counterattack, and then try to get numbers forward as quickly as they possibly can. What I would like to see, though, is more of a concerted press, like as we saw against Arsenal. Those guys were up for it against Arsenal, and it wasn't just one guy trying to, it wasn't one guy trying to press the ball. It was a concerted effort across the front line to try to make sure that it wasn't easy for them to pass the ball. They made that difficult, and because of it, we were able to turn the ball and try to get up the pitch as much as possible. So I'd like to see more of that against PSV. But for the most part, we're probably going to see a lot of these formations where we're actually going to be far more conservative than being on the front foot consistently, right? Against Newcastle, how much space did we concede and how much time did they have on the ball, right? It was like what I think they finished with 69% possession. I think that's about right.
It was a lot.
And, I would probably assume that was the Bayern Munich held onto the ball for much of yesterday as well too. And I would probably assume that PSG is going to be on the front foot most of the time in that Super Cup, right? So it's going to be I would be surprised if it was anything what we've seen since the Arsenal match.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's. What's on everybody's lips at the moment is latest transfer rumors, ins, outs, the lack of depth in the squad. I mean, I guess we'll start with, because there was a question that came up from where is it? It was from Norm. No, it wasn't. It was Jimmy Hotspur. And he says, seriously, guys, how many poor players do you think come in before September? I've got a depth chart here of the squad, which I updated earlier on. Given the fact that we've got a left back who's injured again, unfortunately. I don't know how long. I mean, he kind of poo-pooed the fact that it was going to be 4 months. But by the same token, it's still Udogie with no pre-season again. On the left-hand side of that defence, we've only really got Van de Ven, who's questionable when it comes to injury record, and Davis, who I can't believe we're still talking about Ben Davis being here. So basically, between left centre-back and left-back, you've got an injured Udogie, a Van de Ven and a Davis. Now, on the right side, it looks a little bit better because you've got Porro and Spence. And admittedly, I get that Porro can cover for the left back. But you got Romero and Danzo. Dragusin still injured, obviously. Takai injured. Vuskovic hasn't gone out on loan yet, but Hamburg is sniffing round. And by all accounts, the club have said that he's available for loan. Centre of midfield, CDM, CM it's not looking horrible. That's about the strongest part of the squad at the moment, because depending on whether you're going to play a 6 and an 8 or a double 6, 2 pivots. I mean, we've got Paulinho, Bentancur, Gray, Basuma, Bergvall, Sarr. But then attacking midfield, Maddison and Kulusevski. Well, we both know what the situation is there. Donnelly's just got out on loan to Stoke. Right wing, Kudus and Johnson. Left wing, Tell and Odegaard. Solanke and Richarlison down the middle. Solanke's injured. So potentially, if Richarlison were to pick up a knock, there's every chance, as it stands at the moment, we're going into the season with Scarlett as the only recognised centre forward. I didn't mean for this to sound so doom and gloomy, but the more I talk, the more I'm giving myself hypertension.
I think you've convinced yourself, Drew. That's the thing. As you were reading it out, you're like, "Oh man, you convinced yourself in real time."
Yeah. So I mean, if I were to put a figure, if I was going to put a number on it, on the low end, I think we need 3 more. I think to be comfortable, if we're going along the lines of this whole competing on 4 fronts, whatever competing looks like, I really think you're looking at potentially 5.
6.
Especially with so many of the kids going out. Adrian, you say 6. I'll let you carry on the conversation. Go on.
Well, I mean, we're not going to do it all in this window. I think we'll get another 2 or 3 in quality. And we will get them because we can offer Champions League football. So I'm not panicking over the window. And I understand fans' frustration. But to me, ideally, we need a striker and a left winger. Right. Then we need 2 midfielders, creative 1, attacking 1. Then we need a left centre back and a left back. All right, we've got cover at left back. We've got Davis there. You have till your doggy comes back, and you have got Spence who can do a job there, and even Gray's very versatile. Although I want to see him more in midfield, but I think we need 6. I think we'll focus more on. We are focused on a striker, and we're definitely focused on trying to get a creative midfielder in there. And I think I'd be quite happy to get a striker, 2 midfielders, or a striker, 1 midfielder, and a left winger. See how Frank, but we're not at the training ground, so we don't know how highly Frank values Tell and Odegaard. He probably does, because Odegaard looks a fantastic talent, and Tell's really got something about him. He's got a real good attitude, but they're not proven quality. They're works in progress, and that's what gets the fan bases back up on that. Bring in, proven players. Yeah. So ideally, I think if we're going to compete on 4 fronts, I mean, this is looking ahead. Then by the time we get past January and through the next summer's transfer window, we need to bring in at least 6 players. But and then we don't know what's happening contract-wise with Bentancur. He's probably been offered a new contract, but knowing our club, it's probably on the same wages, and that wounds a player's pride. Right? He might not want to sign. We'd have no trouble selling him. There'll be loads that are in for him. Basuma's on the transfer list. Thanks for your service. Goodbye. And Gil and Solomon are going. It's just a question of getting something for both of them. We'll probably get 20 mil for Solomon. Gil, we might have to pay someone to take him. I mean, no, but I think Girona and others, there's Turkish clubs and all that. You're going to get 5 to 10 mil for Gil. You get something back. I mean, I can't believe we let Lamela go for him. So there's work to be done, but I'm not looking Langer on this. I mean, fan base, they used to scattergun approach last season, attacking all aspects of the club. I get that, and it's justified in most times because we finished 17th. But Langer brought in VDV, all right. He brought in Solanke, he brought in Bergvall, he's brought in Danso, right. He's brought in Gil and Takaya, right. We don't know how good they're going to be. And he's got rid of so many players as well. Plus, he arranged all the loans for players. He is JOF. So I don't think Langer is like if Langer was doing a bad job, he wouldn't have survived the cull. And there's been a lot of people lost their jobs at our club, right? Changed all the coaching staff and everything else. So if Levy didn't rate him, he wouldn't have survived. So just bear that in mind. So he must be doing a lot behind the scene when he's having conversations with Levy that Levy likes. And I still think Paratici's doing work to try and shift Basuma out in the background, things like that. So there's work to be done. Look, this team, it's not an awful squad. It might sound a bit weak with what you've just with your little rant there, Drew. It's still good enough.
It's more like an obituary, mate. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, Gray's a elegy, right? Yeah. So it's far better squad. It's not going to finish 17th. The way this squad is now, it finished 8th or 10th, 8th to 10th, right? And there will be players coming, and we don't know which ones they are. And people have got to look. The whole thing about the transfer window, which I hate, right, is you've got all these media outlets who need to fill column inches and get the clickbait. And even some of the papers that I used to respect a lot in the past come out with such rubbish, absolutely rubbish. They come out with. Big up, Jacob. Yeah, and if it's like they were saying about Paratici, he looks for 5 players in each position. You can't announce that. If you're talking to Ali Gold and all that, you can say to Ali Gold, so will give me something I need. Okay, we are interested in getting a striker, a midfielder, a defender. You can't name names. If you've got a list from 1 to 5, imagine if you find out you're the striker, you were 4th on the list. Oh, do you really want me? I'm 4th on the list. I know you got Champions League football. I'm not going to you because I know I'm 4th on the list. You can't broadcast this out there. You can't do it. It's nuts to do that. And I know we'd all like information. What we want to know through transparency in one way that we are actually really trying hard to get players in. And I believe we are. But we've yet to see it. You know what I mean? We've got 2 cracking players in. Well, Lang's got in Paulina as well, and he's got Kudus as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they are upgrades. I don't care what anybody says. They are big upgrades as far as I'm concerned. So, anyway, with that, Drew, back to you.
Steve, take it away. What are your thoughts? What numbers? What's the most important?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I think that we're only going to get to for numerous reasons, right? And I think number one is because the lack of being proactive in this window has really cost Spurs, right? When this window opened, it was a short window before they closed it, and then they reopened it, right? Where Man City and Liverpool were proactive in that first little portion of the window. We were absolutely not even on the radar for any of our targets. And then when the window opened, their priorities were shifted to make sure that certain players were coming back off their loan deals again, instead of actually being proactive with their prime targets. The other reason is because they wasted 3 weeks in the Morgan Gibbs White debacle, right? Waiting for a conclusion on that instead of actually having formal offers to their second, third, and fourth choices, right? Just as a precaution in case it didn't work out with the Morgan Gibbs White situation. And now they're sitting in a position where there's only 3.5 weeks left until the window shuts closed, right? So there is a small finite amount of time left for them to be able to at least get their main spot, which is at the number 10 position, filled. Because as of right now, they just do not have a guy who is able to pull the strings consistently. And so that position also has to be filled. But here's the thing. They have to be smart about these 3 weeks, right? And I would probably assume that the Jack Grealish rumors actually have substance, right? So this is the area that I wanted to highlight a little bit, because let's say for conversation's sake, that they only have 80 to 85 million left in order to spend, right? Well, they're going to have to use that wisely. And if they go after Jack Grealish for a permanent move, they have no more pieces left to use to fill a very important position at the 10, right? So if they play this smart and they're able to get Grealish done on a loan, then they're going to be able to use that remaining budget to potentially go out there and put money down on a guy like Eberechi Eze, right? So they have 3.5 weeks left to get it done. Adrian, I mean, that was a big number, the 6 number. I just don't think they have enough time in the window in order to get that done. And there's been nothing this summer that would actually, in my opinion, I don't think there's been anything this summer that leads you that they're going to be in a position just to have an onslaught of players coming through the door. I think it's going to be 2, and I think it's going to be a left-sided winger, and I think it's going to be a 10. They're hoping that might bridge the gap, or a rotation of whoever comes in at the 10 with Papsar and maybe a Lucas Bergvall in a rotation, depending on the opponent. And maybe that might bridge the gap until they get back to Kulusevski. But the reality is me personally, I don't think there's enough time left. But that being said, you're still going to be able to accomplish something if they play this out smartly. And the question is whether or not they're going to be able to do it, right? So I don't know how you guys feel, but I have not gotten the impression this summer that everybody in that front office has been on the same page, and I think that's played out to a little bit of an extent.
Alan, what are your thoughts?
I think we're going to panic by a little bit. I'm a little. Well, I don't know necessarily would say panic by, but to be fair, I don't think anyone anticipated James Madison was going to get injured the way he got injured, and to the extent that he got injured. And I think the fact that he got injured and everyone kind of had to take an intake of breath, I think shows that he is more important to the club than maybe certain fans give him credit for. And I think that his is a position, a creative player, we have to have. We can't go into this Premier League season and Champions League season without a very creative playmaker. And so I think though, if James Madison had been healthy, maybe we don't replace with Eberechiese. Maybe that's why we haven't pulled the trigger on him so quickly. We just figured, well, we got James Madison. But now he's injured and most likely will be out for the entire season. It's possible based on his age and the injury, maybe we never see him again. I don't know, but ACL is just such a difficult injury to bounce back from, especially in a sport where running is pretty much required all the time. Right. So
not if you're Brendan Johnson.
But but so I think we are sort of forced into buying a creative player, and I don't know that Arsenal's ready to pony up any money for Eberechiese that would pull him out of his release clause. So my guess is we will have a shot at him if we don't pay the release clause. If we're not gun shy about paying a release clause again, then maybe we pay his release clause and just be done with it.
I thought Easy's release clause expired.
I think in the 15th, when they said it had expired, I think the actual truth of it was due to expire in the next 14 days, but they had reported that it had already expired. So I think, it's the middle of this month, I think.
Yeah. So there's still an opportunity to just pay it and go. And I think we most likely will do it because I don't see a better, more creative player in the market with a profile like his outside of Eberechiese. So, and I think we will probably do the Jack Grealish deal. I think Jack Grealish is a good player. I know that his numbers at Manchester City, I don't think they tell the tale, but I don't follow that team to know about what's going on. I have no idea if he had beef with Pep. I have no idea what caused him to not play. Other than the time he did get, I don't know how much time he was getting on the pitch. Was he getting 5 minutes? Was he ever?
Well, Michael, I'd say my concern with Grealish, Alan, and I'll let you carry on. The numbers for the last 3 years for his minutes, because somebody brought out some stats in a WhatsApp group earlier on. I'm not sure who it was. It might have been Zookeeper Tom actually, and then somebody actually I think it might have been Sean Butler who said over how many minutes, and that got me thinking how many minutes. So I actually did a little Google search. He only played something like 715 minutes in the Premier League last year, which is about 7 games in total. Oh, wow. But then I expanded that, and a Premier League season is about 3,400 minutes, or 3,440, I think it is. He's only just managed that in the last 3 seasons. He did 715 last year. He did about 1,070 the year before, and he did about 2,068 the year before that. So he's managed a little under or a little over a Premier League season's worth of minutes in 3 seasons. And when you look at things like that, I don't know if that's it? Is that really what we need? Another person that potentially is going to take up a lot of finances and potentially not be available for a lot of minutes?
Well, was he not? I guess when I hear that, sorry, Steve. When I hear that, I just, I wonder what is it, the breakdown for the non-playing minutes, whereas injury, how much of that was just Pep choosing other people? I don't know. You know, that number is a good start, but there's a lot that goes into that number of the time that he wasn't playing. And I know he might have been injured for some of it, but I know for certain that he was available for some of it and he didn't play. So, you know, I just hear that there was things going on at that club that obviously he couldn't get a hold of. Maybe he had a bit of an issue. I know he's one of those guys that's likes to be a lad and go down and drink and all that. And it's not private. He's very public about it. So, but I think as far as a player, look, this guy, we wanted him. We were a hair's breadth away from having him from Aston Villa, you know, all those years ago, and we didn't get him. We wanted him then. The fact that, and he was okay. They paid $100 million for him. And I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be some truth to his ability. That obviously Manchester City didn't exploit and get the best out of him. And I think maybe a move somewhere else sometimes is the best thing. Look, players like him, like Marcus Rashford, who I think Manchester United just gave up, wasn't playing well. And then he went to Aston Villa and was kind of killing it. I think sometimes, you know, the grass can be greener on the other side. And so, you know, I don't want to write him off. He is a named player. He's played in the Premier League. He's someone that people can look at and get behind. So I think we'll get a Jack Grealish. I think we'll get an Eberechi, and I think finally, we'll probably wind up with Nicholas Jackson. I don't think
Seriously, curb your enthusiasm.
Well, yeah, man.
He just see, the thing is, that's the panic buy. I think he became available. He probably will be amenable to staying in London. And I think,
but Chelsea have quoted something ridiculous, like 70, 80 million. Right. And we typically, and I know they're under completely new management and there's probably not so much of this anymore, but typically we don't do business with Chelsea.
Right. Chelsea's in an interesting position where they actually have to sell, and they're not in a position where they can overvalue the players and try to jack up. Right. The question is whether Spurs are going to be negotiating from a place of desperation, or they're willing to, like, this is the number we're willing to spend. And we know that you need to sell players, right? So take it or leave it. You know, the interesting thing about Jack Grealish, though, and again, this is where Spurs have to be smart, right? It's not like they're not in a situation where they can outright buy him, because I don't think that that makes financial sense. If they're able to negotiate some type of loan deal, right? And I think the interesting thing about Jack Grealish is you have to take a step back and understand what this year is, right? It's a World Cup year, right? Jack Grealish, just like Maddison before he got injured, had every motivation to put himself in a position where he can get onto that roster. So I think, you know, Jack Grealish is going to be in a motivated position. But I guess the question I have for all of you guys is whether or not you think Jack Grealish actually improves this team. Because from where I stand right now, I'm looking at a guy who's very good on both sides, you know, on both feet, can ping in balls, you know, can create space and ping in balls, right? And as it currently stands right now, when defenses line up against Spurs, there's nobody in this front four that actually drives fear into the heart of defenses. As a matter of fact, as of right now, they're starting to overload the right side to make sure that Mohamed Kudus can't actually hurt him. And so from that standpoint, you know, it's kind of stalled Spurs attack. So they actually need somebody on the left side that's going to draw attention away from a guy like Kudus, right? So from that standpoint, right, like, do I want Jack Grealish on a permanent buy? Not even remotely. But again, if they can get him on loan, right, and be able to use the remainder of their finances to get a guy like Eze through the door, to me that makes, you know, if they can, it starts with a guy like Grealish, right? So, you know, this has to be the move, the best piece of transfer news for this team this summer, because if they're able to get Palhinha on a loan deal, right, because Bayern was so dead set on getting him out the door, right? I get the same impression that City are also in that same position. Where they actually want to get him out the door. This actually might fall into Spurs' hands. But again, I'm curious to know how you guys feel. Like, do you guys think that Grealish actually improves this team, because I actually do think he does.
Adrian, we've not heard from you. What do you think, mate?
I don't want him. It's not that.
I want him next.
I don't want him. No. And the reason is not because he isn't a good footballer. His strike rate's poor. You'll expect at least 9 to 10 goals, 1 in 4 ratio for a winger, right? He doesn't get them. We've also got the issue with Kudus. We're hoping Frank can get some goals out of him, because although he looks a fantastic player, he could be enough. If you put a mask on him, he could be Grealish as well, who doesn't score goals. And now you're looking at, and even if we had 2 good sort of playmaking wingers out there, you think like Richarlison's going to nip him now with 25 or 30 goals like Kane did, or even Solanke. I mean, if we're going to dream of going for the league, not this season, whenever, we need a front three that can bang in goals. And I've always said when we get wingers in, I don't care if one's really tricky and fancy, whether it's Ronaldo and Messi. I'd rather have the more direct winger that scores a goal, one that can score from outside the box. And like Grealish can pop up and do wonderful things at times, but you know why he's left out the England squad. Basically, it's end product, and we need end product. I mean, we can moan about Johnson all we like, but he supplied the end product. He might not supply the work rate or take players on, but at least he's got the goals. I mean, even Solanke got, I think, 15 or 18 in all competitions last year. But then, like, we don't know how many goals. Look, I'm confident that Tor Odebert could score as many goals as Grealish, more. That's what I'm confident. So is he an upgrade in quality of that sort of player that he's been around, got the experience? Yes, in that way. Would he take us forward? No, I don't believe he would. But then that's only my opinion. So for what it's worth,
I would trust Grealish at this point over guys like Odegaard and Tell on the left hand side. I would take that.
Tell you what, I'd rather go with Odegaard and Tell. I'm on the goal things line. I'm confident that Odegaard and Tell will score goals. I'm confident they will. Grealish, sometimes he holds on the ball too long as well. You know, look at me, I'm on the ball sort of thing. I mean, doesn't release it enough. Like when he's had chances to release it, he doesn't. Like at times he's like looking for a better opportunity. The Premier League don't give you that many opportunities. If you see an opening, you go for it. But
what do you think of this, Adrian? King Hoddle says, I think Grealish stats are skewed because Pep employed him as more of a system player and neutered his creativity. What's thoughts on that?
Well, he's gone for a direct approach with Dorku, isn't he? He's gone for power and pace on the left, direct that's got an end product. He doesn't dwell on the ball too much, Doku, not as much as Grealish does. I mean, and the other thing you got to consider, I don't think we're going to do business with Man City, because Levy's the one who's been pumping away about financial fair play and try to bend them over backwards. You know, I don't think we're going to do any business. We're not getting McAtee. I don't think we're getting Grealish for that, and we never do what deals with Chelsea. And if we went in for players for those clubs, they're going to try and like really bump the price because it's us and what's happened over the financial fair play and all that. So personally, I don't want to take any players from Man City or whatever, you know, or Chelsea. To be honest with you, there's enough out there. You know, we haven't got such a big problem with foreign quota at the moment. Once we get rid of Solomon Gill and that, and like, all right, we've got 7 homegrown with the wounded Maddison. If we keep him in the squad to make up,
well, I'll tell you with the fact that obviously Maddison's injured and he counts towards of our homegrown, and we were slightly under. Does that not lend itself more to the fact that you would think that a Grealish on loan or an Eza kind of ticks a couple of boxes, right? And with Eza, I think obviously ticks a little more than a couple of boxes because he can play on the left and come inside, and he can also play in the 10. What are your guys? We'll stick with you, Adrian, before we come back down to Alan. What are your thoughts? Because I did read as well that Frank was so pleased with Odegaard that there's considerations in not replacing Sonny because essentially you could replace it. And just add on to the back of the fact that somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, and I think I brought it up in one of the WhatsApp groups, like we've lost the best part of 65, 67 GA, which, you know, I don't know exactly the combination, but you're looking at, you know, maybe 40 goals and something like 28 assists. But then those 28 assists, they weren't all within those 3 players that we've lost. So you're maybe looking at maybe 15 external goals from that. So maybe, I don't know, looking at needing to try and recoup the better part of about 50 goals.
And you've got to look at
you've just said, Adrian, that Grealish doesn't really, and Grealish's output wasn't great. So what do you, how do you square that circle?
Well, I'm not sure how you replace the goals, Son, and assists for last season. I think it was about 12 goals and 11 assists or 11 or whatever. I mean, Grealish is not scoring that. I mean, I'd love to think that Teller Oberg could do that, right? If they were given the extended run to get them goals, because you rotate nowadays, that does affect how many goals you will get as a player. I mean, if you're playing 38 games, I would expect that winger to get me 19 goals. 1 in 4 strike rate's pretty good. If you're exceptional like a Salah or a Sonny, you're getting a goal 1 every 3 games. Yeah. And that is a phenomenal strike rate for a winger. And who's going to replace Son's goals? And last season was a low scoring winning league. That was 86. Man City won 7 out of the last 11 leagues. And a couple of those, they scored 100 goals. Where are we getting 86 from? We got 86 in 2016-17, and we finished second at Chelsea. We scored 1 more goal than them and conceded 1 less, and we finished second. I mean, bringing players in, even our midfield have got to chip in with goals. You know, so and
that's the problem right now. That's the because when you're looking to replace it, you would try to replace it in-house in the aggregate, right? But that loss of Madison and the loss of Sonny actually kind of deflates it a little bit, right? Because now and then when you look at the loan moves, right? As of right now, that the responsibility for goal scoring isn't going to have to be on one guy. They're going to have to try to get a group contribution when it comes to goals. And right now, when you look at it, you're wondering whether or not Tottenham can actually even recreate it in the aggregate. You're 100% right, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, there's been strong rumours. I hope these are true because this kid was fantastic in England under-21 when they won the championship this year. About Harvey at Liverpool. Now, if the rumours are true, of 40 mil when they get a buyback on him and all that, I would take this kid. He's good. He's good. I don't care about his age. He's good. And he was the best player in the tournament as well. I mean, and Liverpool want to buy it back. That's how highly they rate him. But the point is they've got such a good squad now. They're not going to be able to, they're not going to give him much game time. He didn't have a great amount of game time last season. So I wouldn't mind him. I'd bring him in, but he wouldn't solve the problem on the left so much as he would be a driving force in midfield and be creative as well. So big up, Sean. Big up, mate. Thank you.
Big up, Sean. Thank you for the raid, mate. Much appreciated.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind Elliot. I mean, we've been linked with Paz, and there's rumours that, and then I was told today that we haven't even made a bid for him. We're just asking. So I think we are. I mean, look, I don't believe from all season now we won't have compiled lists of loads of players, and agents won't be tapping at his doors trying to get rid of players from clubs that we're not even interested. That happens at every football club. We'll have loads of players to pick from. It's a question of who we bring in. And I'm sure we're all hoping they're left field but quality. Because we don't want, if someone can do it in the Premier League, like Elliot can, right, fine. If they're from, a foreign league, then they'd better be recognised as quality in that league before they're brought here, and not like, as fans will moan about, a 4th or 5th place player, or as Alan alluded to, a panic buyer. I'd rather not buy if it's panic buyer. I mean, but we should be a great attraction. We're London and we've got Champions League football. And there will be players. I mean, we got Danso out the blue. I think he's a steal. I really do. You know? But he's an exception. And we have failed much better in the transfer market. I always say we failed better. When you look at the players, no one talks about what we paid for your doggy, Sarr, players like that. All right, paid big money for VDV. We didn't know what he was getting. We played big money for Romero. We paid peanuts for Bentancur, more for Kulu. So we have failed better in the transfer market. And Christ's sake, we spent well over $1 billion, 400 million, I think, since the stadium's opened or something. We spent about 120 million already this year, right? So if we want to see it spent better than we did on Ndombele, Lo Celso, Richarlison and Davison Sanchez. There's 200 odd mil there, and that's without their wages, which probably amount to another 100 or 200 mil. This is another thing. When you talk about getting a player for 60 mil, whether you're paying it in 5-year installments, don't forget you've got to add his wages to that as well. You know?
Very true.
So,
just a quick shout to Sean again. It says everyone smash the sub on this great channel. Big up Sean Butler, my ITK, my ITK out there.
We'll go for another hour. Send him the link if you want. Send him the link.
If he's up for it, he can give me a shout. He's more than welcome to come on. I just want to give a big shout out to Super Spurs TV as well, Mr. Blaine. He's gone and gifted 20 Spurs Diehards membership.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As soon as he walked in the door, drinks all round. Thank you very much, Blaine. You're an absolute legend and just so generous. And I kind of lost the list. I did have them pinned here, but if you were a recipient of one of those 20 memberships, then please do remember to give Blaine a big hug and say thank you very much. I tell you what, we will. What's that? Yeah, go for it. Give it a little plug, Adrian. How about it?
Right, we've got 350 of you viewing us now, right? Which is excellent, right?
Ratata raid.
The raid is a big raid we got here. We usually do quite well on Fridays and Sundays. Yeah, our shows go out for those who don't know us or for the first time. Thanks for coming. Our shows go out Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Drew hosts Friday show at 10 because they've got he's got a bit more of an American flavour. He can get American guests on because it suits the time zone better. And I'm a night owl anyway, so it doesn't matter. Ian Meth, co-owner, hosts Sunday show. Not sure if he wants to do one this Sunday because there isn't a fantastic amount of news, but I'll be definitely doing a show Tuesday. Now, Ian's show goes out at 9 o'clock. Now, he's changed his time to 9 o'clock UK time, right? So, yeah. And I do a show 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. We will be doing a preview of PSG, so that show's definitely going out. Not sure what Ian, unless some news breaks tomorrow, whether he wants to bother to do one. There isn't that much quality news out there. And he doesn't like to go on a show and just waffle. I don't blame him. He's a quality producer like Drew is, and myself, I like to think as well. We have got a Facebook group. We've got two actually. We've got a page, 302 members. We've got a group I started when the stadium opened in 2019. That's got 14,500 members. We've got an XCOM, X-Twitter. We've got about 3,250 in that. That's only been going about a year or so. That's really picked up speed. All the links are actually in the ribbon below, the moving ribbon below. For if you do use those sort of platforms, I know a lot of you don't blame me if you don't use Twitter or Facebook. Up to you. Yeah, just want to say a big up to all of you viewing us. Big up to everyone in the chat. Big up to you all for your questions. I mean, we really appreciate it. In the bottom right hand corner, we can't see it, but you can. There's a subscribe button. If you can give the videos a thumbs up or subscribe, it only takes a second. It really helps the algorithm. We've only been going just over a year now. We're doing really well. I think we're doing really well. We're attracting a good, loyal following as well. And the final big up is to everyone who watches on playback. And with that, I thanked everyone apart from God and his mum and dad. So back to you, Drew.
All righty. There's a list of players here. I think some of them are irrelevant already because I think as Hayden Hackney might have already gone. A couple of others here have already moved. But some names that keep doing the rounds. Xavi Simons, whatever you like. I'm sure it's Simons. People say it's Simmons. I'm thinking it's Simons, whatever. Simons, that's what I thought. Yeah, we've already spoken about Grealish. The Paqueta thing, still small waves. I don't know. Mainu has been mentioned. McAtee, Harvey Elliott still, which I think there was another rumor came out today that was maybe somewhere that they were thinking of looking. Wissa, I thought was Newcastle bound. But I mean, anybody here on this list particularly think that this is legit? I mean, everyone keeps on talking about Muani, and for all intents and purposes, I think he's going back to Juventus. I mean, is there anybody here? I think the chat is the general consensus is that everyone wants Eberechi Eze. And there was somebody just mentioned here in a banner, and this was apparently breaking news potentially. Oh, look at me, ITK. I'm not, really not. Enos G, thank you very much for joining us as new. The suggestions around people at Crystal Palace who are expecting Tottenham to make an approach for Eberechi Eze, and that's from Alistair Gold. I mean, Alan, we'll come over to you because you've mentioned him earlier today. I mean, he just makes sense, right? He can do a job on the left. He can do a job in the centre. He can beat a man. He can carry a ball. He can shield, protect it. I mean, it's kind of everything that this team's sort of calling out for, and it would go a long way to, I don't know, letting everyone just take a big sigh of relief, right?
Oh, yeah. He fits in wherever we'll need him. You know, that's the beauty of Eberechi Eze. I think he fits wherever is needed, and he not only fits, but he excels. And I think that he's the right kind of player for us. He's a standout on a team that doesn't have many standouts, you know, and he has to work extra hard. Look, I know that they were downgraded to the Conference League, but they technically qualified for Europa, and they did such a good job in the FA. I think Eberechi Eze is the right kind of player for us. And again, it will look like a panic buy because James Maddison just got injured. But I think ultimately, if he comes, I think there will be a couple of reasons why. One, I think Arsenal probably won't pony up the money they've just spent. They've bought 3 or 4 players already, and not small unknowns. They've bought big names. And I just don't know that they have the money, to be honest. I don't think they have the money or would be able to guarantee the play time that someone like Eze would want and deserve. Whereas I think we can. And I think that will be a big thing. I don't think that Arsenal pony up the money, and us willing to spend whatever we need to spend to get him, and having Champions League, I think we will definitely get him. Yeah, and I hope also that we don't sign Nicholas Jackson. We kind of, we already have forwards that have a little bit of difficulty putting the ball into the back of the net. We don't need someone else like that, or we need someone that's a little more Harry Kane.
Is he a regen of Richarlison before
that's
Richarlison?
That's kind of how I view him. It's like we've already got someone like that, And
right.
Richarlison we've already been there and done that. We don't need to break that into it again. That's just doubling down on wrong.
Doubling down on wrong. Stuck on stupid, looking for dumb. I like it. Yeah, brilliant.
I know.
Does he though? Does he absolutely? Because I'm having a hard time remembering a time when a youngster left the club and then went back to that club for an astronomical amount of money. Because number one, I mean, it just says you kind of messed up in the first place, right? But
right.
I don't know. I don't know.
How is Manchester? What's getting me is how is Manchester United doing the business that they're doing, and we're doing the business that we're doing? I mean, Manchester United at this point, they're only coasting on their laurels, on history. It's not what they did last season, and they cannot offer you They can't offer you European football. So yeah. I don't know what did the Cunha thing. I think was probably in play much earlier, some point in the middle of last season. So I can't really attribute that to where they are right now. But Mbeumo was aware. Shesko, that dude, how did they land him?
I think it's a pull thing, right? I mean, there's been channels, and I think even Sean Butler, big up Sean Butler. I think he's even mentioned it, like the pull thing, right? Newcastle have kind of had egg on their face this entire off season because they keep on going for players, and players keep on turning them down. And as much as we hate it, as much as I want to sit here and say that, of course, Tottenham. I mean, look at how appalling Manchester United have been the last 10 years. Of course, we're better than them. Of course, we're bigger than them. But fact of the matter is, Brian Mbeumo had a Manchester United top from the age of 6, 7 years old. Always wore
Correct.
it. Wanted to go to United. Had only had eyes for United. Benjamin Sesko. I think if we're led to believe, Newcastle even offered a bigger, better package. He wants to go to Man United because the draw of Manchester United. I think we have to realize sometimes, as much as we love this club, there are teams that are bigger and better, and if they waive,
Right.
they don't even necessarily have to waive more money. They just have to waive the badge, waive the history, the football heritage,
Right.
and all of a sudden, 6 months worth of hard work from your scouting department, from your finance team, from your head of player procurement, they could have been doing absolutely everything they could to get a player over the line, a la Luis Diaz before he went to Liverpool. And we're thinking that, potentially things are going to get done. And then in the last minute, the team that does have the pedigree does come in and say, hey, we can match that. We can give you that. I mean, you don't really stand, Steve. You don't stand really much of a chance against something like that happening, right? So would you rather be a Newcastle who can't help but look embarrassed, or do you want to be us doing things in the background, which, ultimately might frustrate a lot of people, but you would hope that, I don't know, the silence in the background isn't a lack of doing anything. It's just a lack of promoting it to other clubs who might come in for the player that you've got your heart set on, right?
Right. I think Spurs are in a little bit better position than Newcastle. And you're absolutely right about that, about Manchester United, because they do have the history. And even in recent years, when they had an off season, they still had a tendency to win trophies. Right. But I guess the most important thing is that they're willing to do what we're not willing to do, which is, on an individual basis for a player, they're willing to pay what the player is actually what the player actually feels like he's worth. Right. We're not that type of team, right? Now, granted, the thing with Spurs, I guess they have a little bit more over Newcastle is the fact that we have recently won things, right? And we have at least been a consistent Champions League team over the course of the last 15 years, right? So we actually have a little bit more to offer, but also it's the London, it's the proximity of where Tottenham Hotspur are located versus a team like Newcastle, which is in the Northeast up there, away from the glitz and glamour of what London has to offer. So I think, from a player standpoint, there's more attractiveness going with the Tottenham Hotspur. But the interesting thing is that when it comes to City, when it comes to United, and because of the things that they have built, automatically a player is looking at that saying, okay, well, there's an opportunity for us to compete and potentially win the Premier League. And at the very least, we're still going to walk away with the trophy, right? So there is something a little bit more in recent history that would suggest that, players look at Tottenham versus a Manchester United and just look at it and say, well, at least United is willing to come to the table, where Spurs just will say, hey, this is our offer. This is what we're not willing to pay, because this is your market value, and this is what we like. We feel like you deserve a raise, but at the end of the day, we're not going to eclipse 180,000 pounds per week. We're not going to go into those type of territories, which actually cuts off a huge percentage of the talent pool that we're just not even interested in.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then on United, isn't there also, because on the one hand, I do look at it and I think to myself, with the back line that we've got potentially, with even just a half solid midfield, some good coaching. Well, if that was us, and if we'd have gone out and spent 210 million on a strike force like that, I mean, we are absolutely cooking, right? But then
Correct.
on the other hand, I'm looking at United, and I don't like to spend too much time looking at other teams, but is it not a case of United potentially just doing United things again? I mean, Benjamin Sesko, for all the potential in the world, I think he only scored 9 non-penalty goals last year. He's 22 years old. I mean, is this not potentially Rasmus Højlund all over again. Like, he could come in for that amount of money. They could stick him in front of goal. It could just maybe not, and I know if buts, maybes, but it could be another situation whereby they've spent 70 million on somebody that's just not going to do it for them. And I guess in the back of the powers that be's mind, and this sustainable model that we work with, and the fact that we've been burnt a little bit before, because I think somebody again mentioned it in the chat earlier that Levy, I mean, it's taken him a while to get over the Ndombele debacle, right? And spending that much money.
Right.
So I don't know. I just, as much as I want us to go and spend, not even necessarily spend big, I just want us to, like you said, Steve, I want us to look like we're at least going to the table, but then I'm sort of conflicted, and I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I also don't want us to just go out scattergun, spend 60, 70, 80 million on something, and it just end up being the wrong thing again. And I guess to compound that, you've got a new coach that has come in and has barely been in the door. Is the cushion on his seat isn't even warm yet. And we're sort of expecting miracles, right?
Well, the interesting thing, right? One of the things that I think you touched on is the fact that Manchester United just throws darts at a dartboard, hoping something that will stick. And that's a perfect encapsulation of the fact that, their football operations has been all over the map for at least the last 6 years. I'm perfectly fine with a sustainable model as long as they actually hit their targets correctly, right?
Right.
And of course, I guess this leads into, what Alan was saying about Eberechi Eze, right? That is a actual respectable target when you look at, his body of work in the Premier League. I think he has over 10,000 minutes in the Premier League. As an attacking midfielder, he has 142 appearances, 35 goals, 21 assists. Playing at his primary position, right? So again, if you have the right strategy, it will work out. The problem with Spurs is that it's been 50-50 that they've hit. You know what I mean? It seems like they have it. For me at least, it seems like our transfer strategy was more geared to the club, not necessarily the coach, and because of it, our success rate is not as high as, even if Manchester United is throwing darts at dartboard, right? They'll still get at least 2 or 3 hits in a window where 6 fail. So ours is spotty because I don't know whether it's just not doing our homework or
It's about, for most clubs, Steve, it's about 50-50 when they get it right. But on Paratici, it's about 65. So there's a
I'll tell you one thing that United
isn't Langer right now still in charge? Isn't Langer right now still in charge?
Yes.
This is the thing I don't know, dude. The one thing that Manchester United and Spurs have both got in common is the fact that over the course of Man United's last 10 years maybe, and over the course of the last 6 years for us, and I like to use this term, it's been all pivot and no patience. And you've been in a situation where you've had a coach who has ultimately come into a team that has got 3 sets of players from 3 previous coaches in a short period of time, and you're trying to make something work. And then you're in a situation where you get, 6 months in and you realize, well, actually, these players really don't do it for me, and I need X, Y, and Z players. And, the correlation between that being a situation with those clubs and, the sort of I would say fall from grace, but, it's been a gradual decline. And it's because you're in a situation, like I say, you've got 4 or 5 different sets of play. I mean, especially with United, I mean, you got, I'm not even going to get into it, but one person did actually point out that Šeško is going to have Mbeumo and Cunha backing him up. I mean, that's one thing I am sort of jealous of. It's like, why can't if we'd have gone out and got that for our team on the with this spine potentially, with the back 5 that we've got, and as I say, maybe a solid midfielder and bringing in Paulinho. I mean, I can't help but think we potentially cook, but I don't know. That's just me being jealous. That's just me being jealous.
we've had all these sources out that are linking us. I mean, like take this guy for example, Ben Jacobs linked to Spurs. Spurs players are actually interested in, right?
Right.
I mean, we've got better sources than that. I'll tell you what, I shouldn't do it. It's confidentiality, but I'll bring my sources up now, right? These are my sources, according to my sources to the club. Yeah, they're mine, right? So, like, yeah. But not what most fans want is this, isn't it? Sign some fucking players, right? So, yeah. So we removed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It would seem like if we don't have, and I think this transfer window is a good example. If we don't have the pull power that teams like Manchester United have, you're right, and like what Eugene was saying, maybe Šeško is going to be like a Højlund, but the fact that we don't know that yet, and he chose Manchester United, a team that guarantees he will not get European football, and the team came in 15th last season. There's nothing, I don't know teams that tend to jump that high from 15th to first or second or third. That's a big jump. So it's just a strange thing. We obviously have to be more ruthless in the transfer window. We really need to be more ruthless. It's the only way to compete against these other teams that have nothing but laurels to rest on.
And I get, Alan, staying with you and Steve, like, I get the fact that, like, when fans get frustrated about the amount of time it takes us to get a deal over the line, But this is a common thing. This is not a myth. It's a common thing for all football clubs. We can get a dance over the line early. When it come to the club, it was a quick deal to do. We can get that deal done, right? But if you take Kuna at Man United, they were in talks for Man United prior to the 1st of June. How many days before that? We don't know.
Yeah.
When they sign him? On the 12th.
Yep.
Right? How long did it take them to get Mbuemo across the line?
Wow.
All this myth about instant getting players in, paying the money, bang, it does happen. It's not common nowadays. These deals are so complex, they're so complicated. It just doesn't happen that way. I mean, I'm not panicking. I mean, like, we should have loads of players that we're looking for. And if they turn out to be, if we turn out to get a few from Serie A, that Paratici's been cooking, or if it's from Scandinavian countries, Langer's been cooking, right? So I'm not panicking yet. I mean, it's not ideal because, like, we would like to have had the players in before we play PSG, just to get one game under the belt, and for them to have a proper pre-season before Burnley. So that's not good. That's unprofessional by the club. Should be doing it quicker. So,
and is that ultimately the problem, Adrian? Because this is the problem, right? This is why we're hearing same old Spurs, because you've drafted in a new coach that isn't, is known for coaching players, and yet is not going to have time to coach these players as much as I dare say he would like, given the fact that he's been, it's a baptism of fire, essentially, isn't it? And I'm all for, like, he's obviously seems up for it. I mean, fair play. This isn't a criticism of Frank. This is a criticism of the club putting Frank in this position. And it doesn't look good, does it? It doesn't look good if it's true, unless there's a team behind, but that should be made clear and transparent. That if Lang went out on the pre-season tour, it doesn't look good as your DOF, and we need to bring players in. Mate, I heard Donna Cullen was out on the tour, and she's not even with the club anymore, apparently, which makes me think even more that's Levy's side piece, right? Absolutely.
It doesn't look good to the fan base if Langer went out on the tour. We don't know if there's a recruitment team doing deals. Before we got in Porro, we had recruitment teams doing deals that weren't nothing to do with the club. There are other intermediaries that you use. And then Levy went out and signed it off. This is where we need to know to have confidence in the club. We need train. Look, I get you don't tell us or broadcast who we're after and all that, but there's so many areas of this club where they could be more transparent, where the PR could be so much fucking better. I'm hoping that Vinaya Venkatesham's in, it will get better under him as well. And now that Chariton's on the board, that, like, we will be. We've got money, right? There's this massive rumor that we've got money coming in. If it's a naming's right deal, forget it. If it's 500 million over 25 years at 25 million a year, forget that. That's just paying the interest on the debt. This is why I'm smelling investment, like a 250, 300 million investment, either from America or the Middle East. That's what I'm smelling. Because we
So
still
you're not
haven't
smelling an oven-ready player.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we still haven't. We haven't spent the money that we're willing to pay for Morgan Gibbs White in 2 payments of 30 mil. I mean, even just having 30 mil, you could put 15 mil down on 2 quality players that cost you 60. You've still got to sort out the wages. So the deal's always a lot more, right?
Right.
But for me, it smells. I think we got enough money to bring at least two to 3 quality players in, and you're not paying all that money up front. This is another thing. You know what I mean? It's usually you might do it in 3 payments over 5-year contract. You might pay it over the 5 years. You know. So
are we risking, like, and again, like, just going back, yes, there's the frustration. Yes, it's the club doing it again. But is there an element of also Frank really needing to get his head around these players? And is it just kind of a situation whereby he wants to be absolutely sure what he needs? I know we've only just lost Maddison, so that was obviously something that, you know, you can prepare for as much as possible, but you can't legislate for his second appearance back and his knee going and him being out for now another 7 to 9 months. So, you know, yes, you could always do business. Yes, things could always go right or wrong. But you know, we could have bought a player last week who ultimately fit one idea. Now we've not got the budget, so then James Maddison goes down, and we can't now fill that. Are we maybe guilty of having a bit of a lack of patience because we're Spurs supporters and we know how Spurs work, and yet also needing to be aware that there's still a couple of weeks of the transfer window to go.
You would think there'd be an easy deal to do, for example, for Paqueta at West Ham, who could do a job for us, right? Because you could offer them Basuma and go and work with his old boss, who was at Brighton before. So Basuma could go to West Ham. You don't do swap deals, they're a myth. You get talk of them, but you can say, well, look, you know, and West Ham will know that we only want, like, Basuma's well in their price bracket. We're only wanting 20 million for him, 20 million euros, 17 mil, whatever it is. So, and then Basuma gets to stay in the Prem, unless the rumour's not true. He might decide that at his age now, if that offer from Saudi is true, he'd probably go and take the money. You know, he might as well. He's been robbing a living off of us. He might as well go and rob the Saudis. They can afford to lose the money. You know what I mean? We'd probably get 200 barrels of oil for him or something like that. You know, so yeah. But Paqueta, he would do a job. He's questioning his temperament at times. He's got that, you know, he's got that South American spite in him. But he free kicks, dead balls, progressing. Like, he's good. He's good. You know, and he would do a job. And I don't think there'd be too many complaints from the fan base about getting him. West Ham fans might moan, but they moan more than us anyway, so it doesn't really make that difference, you know. So yeah. So there are, and like, he's sort of under the radar at the moment, but there are deals out there. There are plenty of good players out there. There's plenty of wingers out there. We'll see. I mean, I would expect us to get a player in this coming week. I really would. Presley, Clint,
they would almost have to, right? I mean, we're like, what, just a little over 3.5 weeks up until the window closes, right? So there has to be movement in this upcoming week. But, you know, for me, I just kind of shake my head because it just seems like, they didn't take their steps appropriately to get to this point. Not only was this summer window not properly mapped out, where they had step 1 through 5 to make sure that they actually had their bases covered, but they also botched the deal for Morgan Gibbs White that actually put him even more behind the 8 ball, to the point where I think Alan might be right here. Now that I think about it, and the more that I've had a couple minutes to on it, I actually do kind of see a panic vibe before the window closes. And now that's, whether that's
Steve's nerves broken,
maybe overpaying for Eberiche, potentially overpaying for Eberiche Eze, or bringing in a guy like Nicholas Jackson. This is the exact situation that we're in. Again, because I just don't think that they took the time from the winter window all the way to the end of the season to map out their summer transfer window, and it almost felt like they specifically dragged their feet to July 1st in order to kind of make the first domino. first domino fall. And now, instead of actually having a proactive summer window, we're now in a position where we're going to have to scramble to cover moves, which means we're probably not going. We may or may not even get the right player through the door.
Well, what's wrong with going to like Real Madrid or Barcelona, right, and looking at the players that don't get enough first team opportunities?
The players have to want to come here, though, right?
Yeah, that's true as well. But I mean, even though Rodrigo's, we ain't getting him, is very left field. The 1,000,000 to 1 chance, maybe longer than that, probably 1 billion or 1 trillion to 1 chance of us getting him. I mean, he's still gonna. You've also got the World Cup coming up for these players at the end of next year, end of this season. Any of those that are on the fringes. I mean, I don't know if Rodrigo would be under threat for Brazil anyway, right? He might be anyway in the squad. In the squad, he might be, but you need to be playing, and I just think we know that Barcelona got a good crop. I mean, we were linked with Raul Rodriguez Casado, the young kid who can play anywhere in midfield, but he's a kid. I don't want a kid, right? Let's get. I mean, before you look at Bayern,
what if that happens?
Koeman was on the list. Kingsley Coman, Goretzka was on the list. If you believed it or not, they both played and spanked us yesterday. So there are teams out there that have not so much got bloated squads, but they've got squads. There's quality players that are not getting game time, and I'm sure we're looking at it. I'm sure we are. I mean, and I'm confident we'll get at least 2 quality players in before this window closes. It's not satisfactory. It should be earlier. For whatever reason, it hasn't happened. Maybe it's because they progressed with talks that at the last minute we've wasted time. We ain't got them. You would have thought that while we're going for Morgan Gibbs-White, we'd also be having conversations with other clubs at the same time with their players rather than wasting transfer window time. I mean, we don't know that, but at least as a club was transparent and saying, yeah, we were after Gibbs-White, but during that time we were looking at, a list of players we're not going to name, but we were also asking questions about, A, B, C, D, and E. That would give you confidence to think that you're doing something, but the club don't give us any confidence in that, do they? They just don't.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Players have to want to come here, and I hate to say it, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, that we're not necessarily an attractive club for a multitude of reasons. Because we haven't had a recent history, but also we're not as solid as a European contender as we used to be. We're not consistent on that home front, right? And players want to be, players want to play in big games. But also the financials as well too. We're not willing to break thresholds because of the uncomfortability, which is why we're targeting 40 to 50 million pound players all the time, right? Because the idea is these players come in, they get coached up, they get developed, and all of a sudden now we have a core. We have a core that's gonna get back to the sustainability as we had under Pochettino, right? But when we're talking about players that are either in England or coming from different areas in Europe, when they make the jump to the Premier League, knowing that the Premier League is where the money's at, that's what they want. They want to play in big games, and they want to get paid for the ability to do so. And that's just something that's the difference between Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Manchester United. They're willing to do it. They're willing to do it, even if it looks desperate. They're willing to do it because of the status that they feel like they have to hold up to. With us, we're not that, which is why we don't attract players or players of any caliber outside of youth players.
Well, I mean, if it's a Galactico, they're going to go to Real Madrid, Barcelona, or even Man United got the port, or Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool, Man United got the best pedigree in the English game, right? Newcastle, they're not sort of that well known. They've hardly won any European trophies and all that. But the fact that we can offer Champions League football, and Liverpool can't buy everyone, same with Barcelona, Real Madrid, and PSG or Bayern.
Are we guilty though, Adrian, of relying on falling back on this? Like we were, let's call a spade a spade. We were lucky to qualify for the Champions League. We are not a Champions League team.
No,
so do people not from the outside looking in? I mean, we can say, we can say it to whenever, yeah, it's great to be back in there. But from the outside looking in, a player's not still looking at Tottenham and thinking they're a bit of a basket case. They just won a cup, but they finished 17th. They just fired their manager who won them a cup. They've just hired a manager who, and again, this isn't a snipe at Frank, but the club have hired a manager who has no experience in Europe to then go into the Champions League, to then say we are going to compete on all four fronts, to then be 3 weeks into a transfer window where you've brought in one first-team player again, you've cocked up another first-team player, which then ended up, signing for his club. So, like, do we need to reel it in a little bit?
Well, Frank won't have the pull. He'll be a relatively unheard of manager in Europe, probably South America. They won't have heard of him. Well, they might have known him from Brentford. Then they might think, well, is he the game show host style of manager that should be standing at the forefront at a club like Tottenham? You know what I mean? You wouldn't get that with Zidane, would you? He'd have the pulling power. Ex-player won it all. So yeah. I mean, that's something that's got to be fixed at this club, and that'll only happen over time. I mean, but like, I still think we are a good attraction. We're London, world-class facilities. That is a big attraction. Danzo didn't think twice. We didn't know what he was getting. I'm quite happy. I'm very happy with him. Actually, I think he's a quality defender. But I mean, like, who'd have thought? Other players we brought in would have done so well that didn't cost a fortune. So you can do it. I mean, like, Bournemouth and Brighton have done it. If we bring someone in who they've done the data analysis on and done the due diligence to make sure he isn't a lazy fuck like Ndombele, right?
Totally.
Then fine. What's this? I kind of think Frank was brought in to try and reproduce Poch years, just coaching. In a way, he sort of reminds you a bit of Poch, Frank. All this, the studious way he goes about things like that. And Poch got rid of 35 players in 5.5 seasons, right?
Yeah.
That's so many. I remember that stuff. Don't ask me why I remember all this crap. I just do, right? So, So, and I think we've under him, Poch era, and Poch would have lost his job if he had won that away game at Villa. Remember that away game at Villa that we won?
Well, the dodgy free kick that won it as well.
Yeah, he took a deflection off the wall. Was that the Kane free kick? He actually scored from a free kick.
Yeah.
That's two he scored in his career then.
Yeah.
Let's also keep it real, right? The Morgan Gibbs White debacle left Spurs with egg on their face. Right, it gives them the impression that they're not even able to negotiate even when triggering a release clause. Right, that had to have been embarrassing, and I would probably assume that players completely paid attention to that.
That wasn't Spurs' fault, though. Let's be fair about it.
No, I get it, but
because what happened there, basically, I mean, during that last interview of Morgan Gibbs White, you got Marinakis standing over Gibbs White like a praying mantis, making sure he says all the right things in his press conference.
You're
probably would have interrupted him if he said something wrong.
Like some heavy.
Right? And reading between the lines, you know what's happened there, right? The agent's gobbed off. He's the one who's got the most to gain. I mean, obviously Morgan's Gibbs White family, friends, associate, third parties would have known about that release clause, even if Marinakis didn't, right? So then, obviously, the agent's the one that's gobbed off. Spurs have been interested for a couple of seasons, gone in, bang the release clause. Marinakis has thrown a strop. It's not only has he got out of his pram, he's thumbed the lift, right? So, like, he's done that and he's gone, right? And now he said, no, you ain't going. We can hold you to the contract. Well, he can. He can hold the player to his contract, even though there's only two. Even though Morgan Gibbs White had said to him prior to that, I'm not signing a new contract. I want to leave, right? And the only reason he'd want to leave and not sign a new contract would be if his agent said to him during that period before we even come in, hey, City are interested, Spurs are interested, you've got so many clubs interested in you to further your career. When the agent really wants this, he wants his cut, right? And then, like, my theory is that Marinakis has turned around to Morgan Gibbs White, and players are close to their agents. They've got to trust them. Look, mate, if you go to Spurs, I'm nailing your agent to the mast. I'm going to have him. And I think that's what happened. I think the pressure was put on the agent. and like Morgan Gibbs White then signed a new contract with them. That's what I think happened. I could be wrong, but there was a lot of pressure exerted from some sort of angle. So Marinakis had hold on it. He kept his plan. Fair enough. We moved on.
My point is there's going to be a lot of players. There's going to be a lot of executives that aren't close to the situation and will take it for face value. That Spurs are going to come out looking weak, because of that debacle. You're 100% right, by the way. I do agree with you on that. But that being said, again, when you look at Tottenham as a whole, right, and the lack of success outside of last year's Europa League trophy. They're even in down years, we're still not really a cup team, right? There's still nothing really to play for. And now that the fact that, we're not a consistent European player, it just, I would probably assume that even like you mentioned Real Madrid and also Barcelona as well too. And those players that necessarily aren't starters, that rotation players, why wouldn't you dip into that, into those types of players? Well, again, players talk, and the reputation around the world is that Tottenham isn't necessarily going to be a place where you're going to be able to further your career and get to a point where either you get sold off later on down the road or win instantly. I'm just saying, it's just the reputation.
Yeah, Alan, we have to upgrade though, don't we? How many chances are we going to get in the Champions League? Right? If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it?
We should always be trying to upgrade. I think that's something that big Premier League teams and teams in general, even the Yankees and the Dodgers, they're always trying to upgrade their team. You have to. Players are always getting older, and there are always going to be players that are retiring out, or players that are just like Yves Bissouma. Yves Bissouma, I think, hit whatever ceiling he had, and you can upgrade on it. At the point when we bought him, I was personally very excited about Yves Bissouma on our team from Brighton. But he obviously hit a ceiling, and now we can upgrade on him. We should always be trying to upgrade on everyone pretty much all the time. We should always, like Batman, you always have a plan, a backup plan for everybody. And that's really how we should, in my opinion, how we should be.
Lord Rodney, I disagree here because I would agree with you a while back. But first it's 60 million, 8 million add-ons, and I want all the money paid up front or no deal. And then more recently we'll accept free £20 million payments. So they do want to sell Eze. Now, I don't know what the issue is. I think he's only got 2 years on his contract. You can correct me in the chat or whatever.
Pretty sure.
So that's the hot spot now. I mean, even Bentancur shouldn't have been allowed to go down to, he needs to resign, and Bissouma as well, if we thought he was good enough, which he isn't good enough to take us forward. So to me, Palace want to get rid of Eze. I think they've learned from
for sure
getting their fingers burnt on Sahar, because then they end up keeping him too long when they got him back, and they didn't get the money they wanted. So although Parish is,
they're going to be in a situation now, Adrian, I think, and maybe I don't know if this has got anything to do with it or it's completely separate things, but they're risking losing Guehi for nothing as well if he decides that he's not going to go this summer and wants to wind down the last year of his contract. So you think that maybe in the background they're thinking to themselves, bloody hell, we could be getting 140 million for the pair of these, and we may end up with about 50.
I'll take Guehi because I think you'd get him for 40, 45, and he'd be worth every penny of it. So even though it isn't our main priority, we can keep Vuskovic, but. Yeah, I would take Guehi, like Walton as well from there. We might go back for him like next summer, But I don't think we're going to do that. We've shown a lot of interest in the player, but we've even had talks, but, that's not happening. So, yeah. Guehi, what's your thoughts on Guehi? Would you take him now? He's not a priority. I mean, if we could get him for the price I'm thinking, I would take him.
I don't think
links as well. Do you think links with a centre back? Although I think they're bullshit, but if there is anything to do with links for a centre back because we need to prioritise elsewhere, is there like an angle whereby yes, we are interested, or we are interested in Zabanya, who's going to PSG, obviously, because perhaps the medical team have had words with Frank and said, like, well, we're not quite sure how Romero and VDV's injuries will pack up over an entire season?
I don't know. Do you know, I can't help but think if we go for another really, really big centre back like a Zabania or something like that, bearing in mind that Takai, even though he's injured, for all intents and purposes, have been led to believe that he is there to back up the first team. Plus, you've got Dragusin coming back from injury, Danzo, Romero. That screams to me that either we could still potentially lose one before the end of the window, or he's toying with the idea of playing a back three more often than he's toying with the idea of playing a back two.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility of getting Guay in and letting Davies go to Wrexham or whatever, getting rid of Davies?
I mean, I could potentially see that. I mean, I feel like Davies signed the contracts to extend it, just for that year, in part to protect the asset, because I still think you can get maybe 3 to 5 million from a Wrexham or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just can't, with the amount of, if everybody was fit, let's just say everyone's fit and firing, Romero, Danzo, Dragusin, Takai, Vuskovic if he doesn't go out on loan, Van der Ven, Davies, that's potentially 7 centre-backs, and you're still looking at bringing in another one. That says to me you want to play 5-3-2.
I wouldn't hesitate. Having said Gray is homegrown, I would take him, but a better option for me, I wouldn't hesitate and go and activating the 52.2 million release calls of Piero and Hincapi at Leipzig. I would take him tomorrow. I mean, and he can play at left back as well, and he's left-footed. So you'd have cover for VDV in that position. I mean, I would take him over Guay, I really would, but like that's just my opinion on that. So I mean, that would make sense.
Piero and Cape. Yeah.
I think it's 52. That's what I see. Steve, I haven't treble sourced it like I normally do, except if there's any truth behind it. You know.
Right. Steve, what are you thinking? It's just a bit too many, right? Do you think maybe do you think I'm onto anything at all with my 3 at the back?
Yeah. 100%, because I think you and I have been saying 3 at the back for a good portion of the summer, right? And I think it actually suits them, considering the lack of firepower moving forward. They're going to have to utilize the players in the best possible way, which would actually end up being a 3-5-2. I think over the course of this preseason, trying to play a 4-2-3-1 with 2 center backs playing it a little bit narrow hasn't necessarily provided the goal contributions as he would absolutely like, right? So from that standpoint, it helps them a little bit. But that being said, that's the thing, is as of right now, who's going to be that 3rd center back? I don't think that it goes from being a luxury to like, maybe we could use a little bit of a little bit more cover. But that being said, I guess the question is at this standpoint, what position, what outfield position is actually needing the most reinforcement right now versus taking a luxury on a guy like me?
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. I don't know what your take on this, because like my opinion on this is, in pre-season, we've seen what Frank has done most of the time with Brentford. 4-2-3-1 and narrow midfield pivot. He's not going to change to a back 5 now after going through pre-season, looking at the players playing a 4-2-3-1. Now, he could have it in his mind. That's why I said, well, is he worried about injuries to VDV and Romero? That would make sense. And like, would he like to bring another centre-back in just as an option? Because like, in some games when things aren't going well, I will tactically make a tactical switch. It's not plan B. I don't believe in plan B. You have your system. Managers have always got a solid system that they believe in and they go with, right? They might tweak things tactically. So he could tweak it tactically and go with a back 3 in some games when if we're just not getting a grip of the game. It's going wrong, going wonky.
But Gay's a starter though, right? So that's the thing. It's Gay's a starter, right? And
but so now
you're telling a guy who's been starting for the last however many seasons, now he's going to be coming in as a luxury and then rotating with one of 2 different center backs. That's probably not going to work out well for him, right? He probably wouldn't even want to come unless he knows that there's going to be an opportunity where he's going to be able to start every single match, right? Which also facilitates three in the back as well too.
Well, he's homegrown. I think the first thing the player's going to want of quality is coming to our club and knowing that they're going to be in the Champions League squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. It's like, will he be willing to come knowing it's a World Cup year as well too, to be in a rotation with Romero and VDV?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of teams. I think there's a couple of teams that could get away with selling. You put your pitch towards players like that, and I think probably Manchester City or Chelsea probably could get away with it. I don't think at Tottenham Hotspur you can convince a guaranteed first team player to come and play in a rotation. When and to be honest with you, Adrian, like if it was.
I think you can guarantee him time, Drew, because like we've got 48 games minimum, 38 league games, 2 domestic cup games, you don't get knocked out, and 8 Champions League games. So we've got 48 games. Are Romero and VDV going to play 48 games? Porro was bulletproof, right? He played more games than anyone else. He played 50 and Decky played 40, I think. Right. So I think you can guarantee them time and rotation. And you get the rotation if the manager trusts you. If he trusts you, I mean, we know at present he'd rather go with VDV and Romero in every game, but that's not possible.
Yeah, but he's not going to want to be a cup player, a cup rotation player. He probably wants to be. He probably wants to feature in the Premier League and the Champions League.
But if he was guaranteed 24 games after games minimum, plus if we get progressing in the cups, then like. I mean, people are always saying these players are going so fast, they play too many games. Pep's saying he'd like to work with a smaller squad. I actually think we should have bigger squads in the Premier League. I actually think they should be, the way players are getting injured, I think you should have more players. We get 9 subs on the bench. In Europe, they get 12. I think we should have 12 subs on the bench. And I think our squad should be 30 players because the injuries you're picking up. But that's just, I think we'll see that in future. Clubs won't like it. More players, more money, more wages. Leave you hate it, right? Leave you hate it. But I think it's the right way to go. If you're going to ruin players, kill their careers by, put them through the grinder, and we want to see good football as fans.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Alan?
Oh my God. I have no idea.
He's still got jet lag. Coming back from the motherland. That's what it is.
I miss England. We had a great time. We were in the.
Have you got a list of panic buys out? That's what I want to know, right?
God. Well,
not Nicholas Jackson.
We can pick up Eberechi. I would be, again, I would be okay if we picked up Eberechi. At that point, if we want to panic buy a little, I'd be okay. I'm really concerned about the creativity. It was one of many things we were lacking in the game against Bayern, but it was one of the standout problems was our creativity and lack thereof. We also didn't create in front of goal, but we didn't have anybody putting the ball in that center area like James Maddison would be doing. So,
yeah.
Again, I know we have.
I think Paqueta's a good option for creative. I really do. I think it's a good option.
Well, let's. We've been going for. Hang on, what are we going for? Almost 2 hours. We'll wrap up shortly, but let's stick on that for a minute because somebody did mention it earlier, and we still do have it's the 67 GA, right? That's the most important thing. Trying to recreate that as opposed to maybe worrying about being a little bit light on the left side of the defense. Like that's clearly, I think I would rather attempt to be scoring. I don't know. We've got to try and recreate 50. I say 50 goals. This could just put a round number on it. So Eza would be obviously one to add to that. What do we think about the rumours that if Richarlison's staying for the cup, but there's a chance that there are deals that he leaves after Wednesday. If it's not Nicholas Jackson, who do we like as potentially coming in to back up Solanke? Is there any names out there, or is?
Well, Miani hasn't gone to Rando Colomani. He hasn't gone to Juve yet because Juve got no money, basically.
Yeah.
And PSG want at least 24 mil down straight away. We can do that deal, right? But if the player doesn't want to come, that's a different issue, right? And PSG might say, "Well, we're not selling you then." Juve ain't coming up with a package. He's under contract. He might say, well, no, Spurs have the money. Either it's Spurs or you stay here. Right? They could do a Marinakis on him. On the other, I didn't mind the look of Callum Wendo and the list we had before. He's fast. He gets in behind. He'd offer something a bit different. Other strikers, there's a dearth of them, isn't there? I don't know what, on that list. I mean, like Miku Tadzi. I mean, like Leon. I mean, he's been a regular for them. Their skin. They've just survived bankruptcy. There's still the ongoing saga of whether they're going to be in Europe or Palace or whatever. You've got that. There aren't actually. We're not getting Savinho from Man City. That's just bullshit as well. I mean, there aren't many. Vissa. I don't think it's a cert that he goes to Newcastle. I'd take him. I would take Vissa. He's proven. I would take him.
And he's proven with our manager.
Right, yeah, and he would love to come to Spurs, but then Brentford, if they're saying 50 mil for was he 29? Is he 29?
Yeah.
What is he 29?
There's an opportunity cost with Vissa, right? Given his age and the price that they're asking for, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes, as Sean said on his shows, you have to pay the extra. So if it is Maddison, it is Vissa, and you've got the money, you're going for 3 players. And you go for 2 that are going to take us forward, take the hit, get the players in. Pay the. I mean, I get it why. I mean, a lot of the talk has been about Ben Jacobs and others on list. Yeah, but when these players are on contracts like this and they're down to 2 years or 1, clubs don't want to pay the money. I get that. And I think everyone's waiting to pounce at the moment. So, I would take Vissa and Eze. I wanted Eze last season. I wanted Dorgu as well.
Yeah, I wanted Eze last season as well too.
Yeah.
Man.
So I mean, I think we all did. Let's not be clever about it. We all wanted him, right? So now, I think you could go and do that. You could go and do the release clause tomorrow, but we'll see. This is why I think when the reality, settles into Spurs and the recruitment team. I don't think Levy's the one pushing this. I think it's Charrington's pushing this on the ball. Close to the Levy family and all that. The Lewis family, sorry. Lewis family. Based in the Bahamas where they're all based on it.
Would anyone take a pop at Jorgen Strand Larsen from Wolves?
I don't know enough about him.
100%. Yeah, Strand Larsen's actually an underrated killer. I'm the type of guy that enjoys watching Wolves. I don't know about you guys, but there just seems to be teams that I always seem to follow.
Stick in the head.
Yes, for no apparent reason, right? Wolves happens to be one of them, and Strand Larsen is just an absolute underrated killer. And I think it's because he plays from Wolves that he doesn't necessarily get the love that Cunha got. But every single time he steps on the pitch, he always seems to be in the right place in order to score a goal. So if that ended up being on the table and he came to Spurs, I would absolutely love it.
Well, apparently Daniel's 90 big up. He's just deflated my tire. So
I did.
Daniel 90. Vlahovic is still available, right? Guys, would you take a punt on Muniz at Fulham?
No, I would take. By the way, I would take a flyer on his striker mate though. Raul Jimenez
from Mexico. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, I get it. He's 34, 35, so he's at the end of his career. But that being said, like over the last year and a half, that dude has been absolutely on fire, and it looks like he's also on fire this year as well too. That dude is just absolutely awesome. So if you're talking about Fulham strikers, you get the best one. Not the guy that
I wanted him as backup to Kane 5 or 6 years ago. But
I do have to say this because I'm trying to get it confirmed. But I just got word that Spurs are in advanced talks with Eberechi right now.
Oh, Steve Silver's turning into the ITK. Yeah. My ITK. He had it with Kudos. He said it.
We could end up with him and then an Elliott. I think we're going to get Harvey Elliott.
What do people think of Elliott? Let's carry on, Steve. What do you think? Go on. Sorry, I'll cut across you.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying to get this 100% confirmed right now. So At this point in time, I guess you can say that it's a rumor. But again, my sources are pretty good. So as of right now, they're in advanced talks. So if that's the case, connecting the dots, probably within the next 48 hours, we'll probably get some word.
I mean, mate, we
And it
would
actually
all be sign a big higher.
Well,
we would all
and it makes
sigh
sense
relief.
it makes sense considering that I think Spurs have actually have wanted him for the last 2 years, and I think now is the time where even if you buy high on him, you still get the player that you absolutely need for that position. And I heard the number is as high as 70 million, which would be a gross overpay, and that would probably allude to what Alan was saying earlier today, that there's going to be a panic buy.
Yeah.
So
I think that buyback clause for Harvey Elliott, I think Spurs are up for this. If we get him for 40 mil and they get a buyback for 60, because they've got a big squad, we'll be developing the player anyway. If he turns into a superstar, they'll buy him back. By then we'll have moved on and be able to look at other players anyway. And this is what we got to do, because we need to fix things quick here. We need to start moving a bit quickly, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but will Liverpool actually loan or sell within the?
They will. They will. I mean, look. I mean, they've got so many players there now that are good that they can't give.
I think the thing with Liverpool, they have so much. So I think they would, because they have supreme confidence. Yeah, I just think they've got the supreme confidence that they would turn around and be like, "Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll put in the clause." And chances are, 2-3 years from now, if he does absolutely ball out and we want him back, we're confident enough in ourselves that we can say, "Come on," and he'll say, "Yeah, no worries." They're just on another level. They're like from top to bottom how they run that club. Yeah.
And then it would be down to the player to say, "Well, yeah, I want to come back," because if they don't, then you keep them.
Yeah.
So then we've got to show ambition, which we haven't really done in the past.
Well, you say that, but we can get into the nitty-gritty of what ambition looks like and how much money we've spent and whether it was just spent in the wrong places. I mean, I don't know. That's another rabbit hole that will be here for another hour talking about that. But I think we are going to wrap out. I got a couple of things that I need to hop off and do. Before we go, Steve, what have you got coming up on your channel over on Stateside Footy, my friend? Let us know.
That's an absolutely great question. Tomorrow at 3:00 Eastern, 8:00 UK time, I welcome Harry Scarf from Scarfy Talk Spurs to come on to talk a little bit about the current situation that is going on. Considering that we're a little over 3.5 weeks left until the window closes. So we're going to be talking about, essentially strategy on how to replace Madison and the actual transfer strategy in itself. So that's going to be tomorrow at 3:00 Eastern, 8:00 UK time. So head on over to Stateside Footy and hit that sub button. It's going to be a hell of a show. And of course, last week we had Luke Samuels on from Spotlight on Spurs, and so the American Hotspur train just continues on rolling. So
big up Luke as well. Great show.
Yep.
Awesome. And what about yourself, Alan? Anything going on over at Team Tottenham Go?
No, not yet. I enjoying my sabbatical for the summer. It will wrap up. It'll start ramping up again. I'll probably take a few trips to LA this year because I'll want to see Sonny play with the Galaxy. Nice. And it's
no
so
panic
close.
Podcast, Alan. No panic podcast.
No panic. Yeah. It's so funny that he's so close now. It's I've never had that, where we had a player like Sonny or someone that's so close that we can just drive there and go see.
Oh, it's going to be nice, isn't it? You're in that Southern California area now. All of a sudden, LAFC
big massive Korean population in that area.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I grew up in LA, so I know exactly that population. So it's it'll be interesting to see him, enjoying his time in LA.
Oh, there, get some kimchi down here and
love kimchi.
It's interesting how it's interesting how LAFC has become a more attractive destination than the LA Galaxy in a span of less than 10 years. Kind of interesting.
I know.
Awesome. But, all right, guys. Adrian, sorry, finish up, Alan. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say it's exciting to have Sonny out here in LA. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Right.
Adrian, what you got going on the rest of the weekend?
Well, if Ian does a show Sunday, I'll co-host with him and Tom, our other fellow admin. I'll be doing a show Tuesday though. We'll definitely be previewing the PSG game. Hopefully, we've got some good transfer news as well. Whatever, but I'm sure we'll make it interesting. We all try and make it interesting, bring facts to the audience. With that, final plug on the channel before you close. We've got 250 of you in here now, which is fantastic. Like I said earlier, to those that weren't with us then, we do shows Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We may or may not do one this Sunday unless there's something worthwhile to bring to you, facts and that. Sunday show goes out at 9 o'clock. Ian hosts that. I co-host with him and Tom. And Tuesday show I host with Tom. We will be hosting the Champions League games and all that. Tom's just become a father again, so he's a bit pushed for time. Friday, obviously, Drew hosts. Like in the ticker below, you can see we have 3 other platforms where you can reach us. We have the Facebook group, we have a Facebook page, and we're on XCOM as well, which is pretty good, which I think a lot of you are watching us from now. And with that, big thanks to everyone in the chat. Big thanks to Sean Butler, by the way, for giving us the raid. We appreciate that, Sean. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, big up to Sean. Thank you very much for that.
It's all of those subscriptions too.
Yeah, big shout out to Peter again for 15, what ended up being 15 diehard memberships. And then big up to Blaine, who came in with a big 2-0 as well. And then also came in with a super chat. I just said nothing to add, just to let Drew know the pajama choice is Eeyore tonight. I mean, it's a stellar choice. It's a stellar choice. Yeah. And then again with his, and then he mentions your oven ready as well. So that's fantastic. Yeah. But thank you very much to those guys. If it wasn't for you guys, you just keep it going for us. So thank you very much. I want to say a big shout out to everybody in the chat. So many to mention. Very loyal regulars, some new guys.
And don't forget to hit the little subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, which we can't see because it really helps the algorithm. And if you can just take the second to give the channel, the video a thumbs up as well, that's brilliant as well. Like I say, thanks to all in the chat. Thanks to you for all your comments and questions as well.
Absolutely.
Big up to everyone which is on playback, and back to Drew to end the show.
Wow, big up to everybody. I think on that we'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekends, and come on, you Spurs.
We are Tottenham till we die. We are Tottenham till we die. Spurs diehards, heart and soul. Tottenham till we die. We are Tottenham till we die. Spurs diehards, heart and soul. We are Tottenham till we die. We are Tottenham till we die. Spurs diehards, heart and soul. Tottenham to